What's checking, everybody? Welcome to a Friday edition of House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. We're going to be with you for like the next hour-ish or so on this Friday. I hope everybody's getting ready to have a good weekend. I hope you're already off from work. You know, maybe you're on vacation, whatever the case may be. Here's hoping today is a spectacular one for you. Like, comment, subscribe, all of those things. And oh, by the way, feel free to jump into the Specs chat. We already see people in the building. Even if Money B isn't quite. Is Money B? No Money B yet. So we're holding the reservation for him here.
Yes.
Chad, happy Friday.
Thanks. Same to you. Text guy 2 is saying, no, sir, this is Friday. So maybe
he goes to work. This is his Monday. I don't know.
Maybe it is, yeah. Or my parents were watching The View this morning. Apparently, Whoopi takes Fridays off. So maybe Money B and Whoopi are on the same schedule.
Your parents were watching The View, or your mom was watching The View, and Doc just happened to be in the room?
My mom.
Is he a secret viewer?
I don't quite know if he would be considered a fan. She asked if we were okay watching The View, and neither my father or I resisted.
Well, that's not the same thing as my parents were watching The View.
Right. I would argue my parents were watching The View because my dad's been a Whoopi guy for a long time. Let me rephrase.
He wasn't on today.
Let me rephrase. My dad has been a fan of Whoopi Goldberg for a long time, and that's kind of his foundation into the show, and then he's gotten into the rest of the show.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get answers to questions that you don't really want, and that's when a super chat right off the top, $9.99 really does help. Hey, fellas, on the UT coaching, baseball coaching topic, CDC does also have personal ties with Vitello as well. That's true. He was Schloss's assistant coach at TCU before Tennessee, hosted my official visit tour in 2012. Oh, look at James both name dropping and revealing to everybody I was kind of a badass a decade ago.
Yeah, there you have it. James, thank you for that.
James. Where did you sign?
Yeah, right. Tell us the story and
James,
tell us what was
an official visit to TCU. I want to know who else you took official visits to and where did you sign? And if it ends up he's some famous UT baseball player named James that I've just forgotten, then I'm going to be embarrassed. So I'm announcing that now.
There you go. James, thank you for that. Yeah, give us the updated info. That'd be nice. I bet Vitello.
Come on, give us some scoop.
Vitello on the tour has got to be fun, right? I mean, whatever you're doing,
it's not boring.
Whatever you're doing, Vitello on the tour has to be fantastic. All right, so Catch, we're getting ready for this big recruiting weekend. We've got the list of visitors we can throw up if people want to check it out, and we'll kind of go through all of it. But if people haven't checked it out, the War Room is there for you at orangebloods.com. Go check it out.
Sign your ass up. Come on now.
Exactly. There it is. We're going to throw up a QR code for you and everything. Make sure to check it out. There were some good notes in the War Room about some of these visitors. So, Catch, where do we start today? We've been talking about some of these big fish for a while now, and a group of the biggest, figuratively and literally, are coming into town this weekend.
Yes, by the way, when we say we'll get super chats right to the top of the line, Chris drops in $5. $5 Friday, boys. Cheers to the weekend. Yeah. Cheers to you. By the way, James wants us to know, LOL, to your bench warmer at Texas. You know what they call bench warming around here, James? Being on the team.
Yeah,
so
be on the team.
Don't beat yourself up. Just so you know, we admire the bench warmers, a.k.a. teammates, right here on House Divided. Yeah, Chad, I thought it was a good War Room. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I thought I had a couple of interesting nuggets in my section. And the two that probably stand out the most was that I talked to a number of people who were at the Elite 11 camp that just concluded this weekend. By the way, Keelan Russell, quarterback from Duncanville, the top prize as the number one quarterback there. When you saw Duncanville last year, did you ever think to yourself that you were watching a quarterback that would go to the Elite 11 and win everything, Chad?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily think it, but I also would tell you I don't remember thinking I was watching quarterback issues or problems. I don't remember thinking, boy, that DeCorian Moore is bailing his quarterback out over and over and over again. I guess I was just watching a well-oiled machine from all sides.
No pressure, Duncanville, but a state title this year is going to be the expectation.
Yeah.
So in talking to the people at the Elite 11, I think the single biggest note, if you're asking me in the war room, was one that I had where the vibe on the Elite at the Elite 11 amongst players and coaches that were there was that both Jamie French and Khalil Lockett, two of the headlining wide receivers and really players, period, that are visiting the 40 acres this weekend on official visits, that the perception there is that those two guys are actually leaning to Texas every bit as much or more than, no pun intended, Decorian Moore. That there is a real sense that Lockett and French will arrive this weekend sitting on a tee, ready to be knocked out of the park, that they are strong UT leans as of this very moment. And I thought, well, everybody's pretty much chalking up Decorian Moore as a future Longhorn. And I talked to somebody connected to the Duncanville program yesterday who said they think Decorian Moore is going to Texas. So that French and Lockett, at least at the Elite 11, were perceived as even heavier Texas leans. It really does set the stage for this weekend and what this Texas recruiting class may be capable of. I keep saying things like, I can see them committing, but it's going to be hard to imagine that all three guys actually sign with Texas. And yet, I don't know what standard. These guys all know the score. These guys all know that all three may end up at Texas. I don't know what they would learn in November that they can't learn now. And these guys are all leaning pretty heavily at this point. There has to be an unexpected fork in the road for this to not go a certain kind of way. And that certain kind of way is a pretty exciting prospect for Texas football.
So, Ketch, let me turn this receiver question around a second, because I feel like we've talked about the group of three. And when we say, could they get all three? I feel like there's this natural inclination that means more in one of those other guys. And then either Lockett or French kind of falls off. Let me ask you, though, if your intel is right.
The big three is French, Lockett, and Moore, period.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is we've discussed it as Moore being kind of at the top of the list. I feel like the discussion has been, what if you could get Moore and one of those other two guys if you had
not the discussion that I've been having.
Okay. So the question I'm asking you, though, is if it ends up being Lockett and French to Texas, but Decorian Moore ends up at LSU or ends up somewhere else, is that
I don't know why you're even asking the question. That's not – finish the question.
Okay. I'm trying to compare to another guy that's coming in this weekend. Would not getting Decorian Moore be less of a hit because of some of the other receivers they could put together, Lockett, French, etc.? Would that be would that be a more livable thing than if, say, Fasusi didn't end up at Texas?
Man, there's nothing livable about Texas not ending up with Decorian Moore.
Okay.
No matter who they sign, like Decorian Moore is the number one guy on the board.
So you'd put Moore and Fasusi both in that category of Sark, you got to get them at all costs.
I think Alex called it no matter what.
Okay.
I'm a by any means necessary kind of guy.
Okay. So at this point,
no matter what, plus by any means necessary, that's the deal. And look, last week, Decorian Moore got kind of – the thing is, if you bring Decorian Moore in with French and Lockett this weekend, and then Decorian Moore does the 11 family member thing, and you're kind of watching it from afar, the extra thickness that gets. Remember a year ago? Well, not 2 years ago when Arch Manning came into town, there were prospects on campus, big-time prospects, who looked at Arch getting to ride around in a golf cart and thought, why am I not getting a golf cart? Why am I not getting the spectacle? I guess I'm not as important. So I think it was really smart to have Decorian Moore come in last week. This week, French and Lockett get all of the attention. without the Decorian Moore shadow that does exist, he is the number one ranked prospect. He is the most important guy. They did want to be able to put a spotlight on his grandmother and his mom and whoever else he wanted to bring, give all of that special attention. And I don't think they would have wanted to do it in a way that compromised them with Lockett and French. So I think everything is set up really well. I just can't envision a world right now where they don't get Decorian Moore. I don't know who number 2 is in that battle. It could be LSU. It could be Ohio State. He visits Oregon this weekend. Maybe Oregon does something to kind of change the dynamics in his recruitment. It is the single biggest ask, I think, at the wide receiver position that we've ever seen. I can go all the way back a quarter of a century to the 2000 recruiting class, which would have been summer of 2009. And they're recruiting Roy Williams, BJ Johnson, and Sloan Thomas all at once. And Roy was the first to commit. I think Sloan Thomas committed in December. I can't remember exactly when BJ did. He may have been in the middle there. But those were all in-state guys. Jamie French is an out-of-state guy, so there's some dynamics in play there that are different than the current all-time best wide receiver class that the Longhorns have ever signed. That's what they're attempting to do. That if they pull off the combination of Moore, French, and Lockett, I think it's probably close because of how good those 3 guys were back in 99, 2000. But I do think this group supersedes that a little bit. Decorian Moore ranked higher right now than any of those 3 guys were nationally, I think, just by a little bit. BJ was ranked higher than Roy by about 10 spots. I think BJ was 7th in the country. Roy Williams, it's hard to imagine now that Roy Williams wasn't ranked higher than BJ Johnson. I just, I did it. I remember seeing BJ in person. I remember seeing Roy in person. I remember having the recruiting discussions. All of us in recruiting back in the day had our fingerprints on it. And then I'll never forget seeing Roy Williams in his first game, thinking to myself, oh God, we got that wrong. First quarter. Both of their first games. And it was, damn, we got 2 should have been 1 and 1 should have been 2. And it kind of reminds me of that Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf deal where people were honestly having that conversation. And it looks so stupid all these years later. Occasionally that happens. I think one of the questions I have about this weekend, Chad, will one of these 2 guys commit anywhere near soon? It used to be when guys would leave their official visits and people still ask the question, but the answer is usually no or maybe, right? This idea of, will Texas come away from this weekend with a commitment? They didn't last weekend.
Right.
The weekend before they did.
Yep. You're
Keon
thinking
Armstrong commits at A&M literally within hours of showing up on campus. So
that was the front side.
Occasionally we see these things happen, but more times than not, these guys want to go home. They want to shoot videos. They want to have ceremonies. They want to get everybody involved. Will any of these big guys really get the ball rolling? It's the question that I have. Who of the 3 is the hardest lean towards Texas? And that probably gets answered by who the hell commits first. But I'm curious to see where this process starts because I think we're talking about them as a trio, but at some point, somebody's got to be the first guy and somebody will be the second guy and someone will be the third guy. If in fact, all 3 guys come to Texas, I'm curious though, would it be French? Would French decide this is where I want to be? And I told people 6 weeks ago that Texas was my number 1. And then I cooled off on saying that publicly, but deep down, it's probably true. And then I go to Texas and they overwhelm me and that's where I want to go. I think that's one of the things I'll be looking for this weekend is just how much of a shot in the arm do they get with these 2 guys coming in who are already, they're out in California. And there's no reason for the people out in California to suspect that Texas is in both of their futures, unless those guys are walking around telling people I'm probably going to end up at Texas. That's the way these things work out. It's like, what are you hearing out at the Elite 11? Oh man, French and Lockett are leaning heavily towards Texas. That stuff doesn't just get made up. These guys talk to each other. All of the quarterbacks are out there, including KJ Lacey, who would be, you'd be able to pull him aside. Hey, what's the vibe? What are you hearing? He's going to be in town this weekend for his official visit. So batter up. And I think it's a real weekend for excitement. I think after the Decory and Moore social media stuff from last weekend, everybody will be wanting to see, is anybody's grandma showing up?
Right.
Who gives us the 11 family member appearance on socials? And then we'll probably have a pretty good idea of which of these guys that are visiting this weekend will end up at Texas. And oh, by the way, I think I mentioned it earlier, but Decory and Moore is taking an official visit to Oregon this weekend. So it's not like as much as we all, I think, believe he will end up at Texas, his recruitment is not over. Otherwise, he's not taking the visit this weekend. So there's still some things that he wants to explore. And that's kind of, I think, where we are with the receivers.
Crawled up over 400 folks already in the Specs chat. We appreciate you. We'll continue to get those chats. We will look for super chats. They'll go right to the top of the list if you want to throw any of them in. Catch, why don't you tell the folks about Rogue Shop? We're heading into the weekend. Folks love to relax on the weekend, or maybe they're anxious about the weekend. Rogue Shop can help them either way.
It can. It warms my heart to just hear you even mention Rogue Shop. Look, whether or not you've got anxiety or pain or you're having problems sleeping, and I'm out of gummies because I've given them all to my mom. So that's going to be one of the things I think, because my mom's always hitting me up with, oh, I had a tough night sleeping. Got any gummies? So she ends up getting all of my gummies. I need to get more gummies because I got to tell you, this week I haven't slept great. Rogue Shop. I need to take my own advice and get on the website and place the order, and then they'll send me the badass package, and then the good times and the good night of sleep will go on from there. Everybody's needs are a little bit different. I got to imagine that whatever my needs are, they're different from Chad or from my wife or from his wife, but there would be a solution to a lot of problems at Rogue Shop, no matter what they are. You just got to go explore and check it out, whether it's the salves or the gummies or the cartridges or the pet products. There's so many things to explore and check out. But you can't do it if you don't actually explore it. Scan that QR code, go to the website, get it done this weekend, make life a little bit better.
There you have it. Shout out to Rogue Shop and all the great partners here at Orange Bloods Live. I'm just scanning for a super
Chad,
chat.
you want to hear a little bit of a funny Rogue story from this morning?
Sure.
Actually, a little bit, maybe like 40 minutes ago. We're going into weekend when I tell stories like this.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to go to the bathroom, and I had been in my car, and I had been holding the need to go to the bathroom in.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had been wanting a Rogue bump, if you will, a little taste of Rogue going into the show. So I did the Rogue before I went to the bathroom, which made me cough, which almost made me do something else. And I was really worried that there's something else. I had to check.
Wow. That is an old man Rogue story is what that is.
It's an old man. Hey, I only tell it because nothing happened. That in the end, false alarm, everything's good. But, in retrospect, kids, let me just let you know, bathroom first, Rogue second.
Yeah, it's kind of a good
advice, having almost learned a lesson today.
Kind of a good urology test, really. If you are of a certain age and you can hold things during a Rogue cough, then you're good. And then that's exciting. We got some chats in from different folks. Text guy says Sark's offense going to have to change to include 5 wide on the field at once. Maybe from time to time. Yeah, maybe. Catch, what about this buy or sell to get us loosened up? Buy or sell, it doesn't matter whether the 25 QB is Lacey or Russell, because Diabell would start at Texas before either one of them.
I will sell that. The implication, I think, in the way that that's written is that Bell's better than both. And thus, there just wouldn't be a competition because he's better than them by enough of a margin that they just wouldn't beat him out starting.
Yeah. See, I also took that though as an Arch Manning timing issue.
Well, I'm going to point out that where he may be right, and I have said this numerous times, these guys are signing in the 2025 class. The current expectation of Arch Manning is that Arch is not going to leave college before he's starting 20-plus games, that they feel like there's a sweet spot of starts that a quarterback has to make before they go off to the NFL. And so for Texas, that's great news. That means the thinking is they're not going to get 1 year of Arch next year, and that's it. Now, what if Quinn gets hurt and suddenly Arch takes over in October? Whatever happens. They come back next year. He starts the full season. Maybe they win a national championship. He'd be the number one pick in the draft. Is there a situation in a scenario where that changes? Maybe. I don't know what the mathematical probability of all of those things happening are, but it could happen. But it would take that type of scenario, I think, to keep Arch away from the 2026 season for the Longhorns, which means that it's going to be 2027 before, I think, unless something unexpected happens, before the door opens up for someone other than Ewers or Manning to be the starter. And it's a lot to ask an elite level quarterback like Lacey and Russell to wait until their third seasons before they can legitimately compete for the starting spot. It's kind of what Arch is doing. Think about how unique Arch Manning's situation is, that he's able to do that with relative ease. He's not taking NIL dollars. He's really, he could be making millions, and they've said, well, we're just going to wait. We're going to wait until he's the starting quarterback before any NIL stuff pops up. For some of these quarterbacks, that's leaving millions of a guy like KJ Lacey or Russell, leaving 2 years of NIL money on the table out of principle. That's millions of dollars that you're just saying, I'm good. So Arch comes from a place where when we watch and look at how he's handling his playing career, it's almost impossible to say, KJ Lacey, just do what Arch did. So I do think it will be difficult, not impossible, because maybe 2 years ago, I would have said it would be impossible to watch Arch wait 3 years. And yet it will be going into his third season unless something happens to Ewers before that is a realistic viability for him. I think Michael's more right than he is wrong. And if Lacey hangs, the thing is, and here's the kicker, Lacey would have to wait until his third season. And it's not like the job would be handed to him because there will be a Diabell. So it's, hey, we need you to wait till year 3. Oh, and just so you know, nothing's going to be given to you because we're going to continue to recruit and bring guys in. So it's wait 3 seasons for the opportunity to be the starter. And that's if pick a woman, Chad, not your wife.
Jessica Alba.
If Jessica Alba said, Chad, if you wait 3 years from me, just wait 3 years. You can't be with any other woman. But if you wait 3 years for me, you can have me. That's such a different deal than Chad. Wait 3 years. Say goodbye to Wendy. Can't go out with any other woman. And at the end of those 3 years, you'll have a chance to be with me. That is so different.
That's a bit of a different story. Yeah.
Huge difference. And I think there won't be any way for Sarkisian to completely get away with that when he talks with his quarterbacks. He knows that job will have to be an open competition. That could be Trey Owens. That could be KJ Lacey. That could then be Diabell. nobody's shooting from the layup line. So the ask of the 2025 guys is a tall one.
Just double checking for super chats here. Thank you,
I
Michael.
thought we had one from Jay Lee
for that one. I don't believe we did. No, we got that one earlier. Did
Boom,
we?
right here.
My bad.
Super
Thank
chat.
you. Thank you, Jay. Now that we are back after 15 years, has it happened slower, faster, differently than you thought it eventually would?
Well, I never believed in Charlie. Ever. And I can remember when Charlie came in, I wrote Charlie Strong stories about the techniques and everything. But the UCLA game, first year, I came away from that game wondering if the head coach at Texas could count. And, I feel like you got to be pretty diabolical and shrewd to win natties in college football these days. That there's a lot of really sophisticated, this quarterback discussion that we're having, it's not easy to manage. Like, that's why Steve Sarkisian ultimately is going to make $10 million a year, is to juggle these egos and needs and everything. I thought Tom Herman had a chance. And at one point, the recruiting was at a pretty high level. It looked like they were really starting to get somewhere from a quarterback standpoint and recruiting. You got to remember, I thought Hudson Card was going to be the next big deal. Then following that up with a guy like Quinn Ewers, I really thought they were on their way. So in retrospect, I would say it happened a little slower. And I don't know that I ever thought Tom Herman was definitely going to – I don't even know that Steve Sarkisian is definitely going to win a national championship. I'd be lying if I thought after Texas beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl that I wasn't buying some of that back momentum. It was obviously like a false flag that it didn't quite happen. But, boy, the program looked like it was headed in the right direction at that point. It's probably the biggest psych moment of the last 15 years.
Jay, thank you for that super chat. Jay, one of the great chatters that we've had recently. We appreciate you. By the way, Cotton, nice work. We know French will give a silent F commit. Very nice. Very good job. Cotton knows his recruiting very well. We'll continue to talk about this recruiting group. Also, Mark wants to make sure we know that Venables got a 6-year extension at Oklahoma. That is a thing. That did happen. Adds 2 more years onto his deal and gets him more
I'm sorry.
money.
That is Texas giving Shaka an extension when you didn't need to. And that's definitely Texas giving Tom Herman an extension.
It's not quite because it's not all guaranteed. It's not quite A&M re-upping on Jimbo when they didn't have to, but it's,
there's literally not a program in the country knocking on Brent Venables' door right now.
Right. Exactly.
Who are
totally
you?
Agree.
Who are you like vying positioning with? Brent Venables is lucky that Oklahoma has given him the keys to the program. Yeah. The idea that before he ever does anything, that they had to give him a 6. That's wild. When I saw it, what did I say? I think I just wrote yikes.
Yeah, that was it. It was a yikes.
My organic reaction to that was yikes.
Yeah, we both used to work with a guy who would just say gulp in those situations, and that one came to mind as well. All right, thank you for that one, Mark. Rolling through a Friday House Divided, up over 500 folks in the Specs chat. Let's thank another one of our great partners around here, and I get to try to make you thirsty. How about some Deep Eddy vodka? Sounds like a pretty good plan. Get all stocked up this weekend. If you're not stocked up, just head on out there to the Deep Eddy vodka tasting room. You can get you some of those cocktails like the upper right. The beauty of those, they'll use a certain kind of vodka to get you that certain kind of flavor. If you're more of a Paloma fan, you're going to go with that ruby red on the left. The one in the middle is what my wife gets into, which is a little more of that Cosmo vibe with the cranberry vodka. The one on the right is the one I had, and that's more of a margarita on the rocks feel with the lime. Deep Eddy vodka. All the flavors are waiting on you, and they've got the schedule for you right there. Saturdays 11 to 5, Sunday 12 to 5, and if you're trying to head out there on this Friday, it is 11 to 7. Deep Eddy vodka tasting room. Always a good time out there. All right, big weekend, obviously, for the visitors. We've talked, Catch, about two of the receivers. Anything else on French and Lockett? They are obviously part of the group coming in. We'll look at the full list coming up here in a second. Anything else on French and Lockett you wanted to mention? Are there any other notes on somebody else?
I think I would just say I think the interesting thing with all three of those guys is that I don't know who the clear number 2 is. We were just talking about it with Moore. Maybe it's Ohio State, maybe LSU. Deep down, there's an emotional attachment that if he were to go someplace, that's the thing. It's like, oh, DeCorian Moore doesn't go to Texas. Where does he go? I think when you look at Jamie French, Alabama could be a factor. You know, there are schools. He's a national prospect who's taken national visits. I guess he could like LSU, but it's not clear exactly what the number 2 school is. I had a source yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I put this in the war room when talking about Jamie French, that if there's a place, you know, French, I don't know who the number 2 would be. With Lockett, there's some thought maybe it's Alabama is the team that you would keep an eye on, but that then we're going to have a Michael Fasusi conversation here in a second. And I think it's very clear who Texas is battling to win Michael Fasusi's signature. With these other guys, it's a little less obvious. And I think that speaks to the positioning that Texas has. I mean, look, anybody can look in the database on Rivals or any other network and see, oh, well, this guy visited LSU, and this guy visited Alabama, and this guy visited Tennessee. Like, you can look at the schools and go, oh, well, if he doesn't go to Texas, he'll go to one of those other 4 places he visited. Right. Good job. Nice job. Great analysis. Who out of those 4 is positioned to be number 2 and really push Texas to the finish line, I think is really unclear. And I think it speaks to the distance that Texas has put between themselves and the pack. You know, I'm talking to a source this weekend, and the only thing other than, hey, man, sounds like Texas is way out in front of both Khalil Lockett and Jamie French is somebody telling me in parentheses with Khalil Lockett, quote, although Alabama could be the team to watch there. That's not is, that's could be.
Yeah.
We're still in a could be stand kind of position. So I think, again, if you're Texas, as long as this weekend goes great, I think you're in an awesome position to get those 3. I think the Michael Fasusi piece of the conversation, although we've had it again, I think there was some stuff in the war room that makes an updated Fasusi conversation pretty interesting.
Yeah, and obviously Michael Fasusi, the tackle from Louisville, is coming in as part of this group. And so, Catch, if it's not, and to your point just a second ago, as you sit here today, if it's not Texas, is it one of the Rivals or is it someone else with Fasusi? What are you hearing?
Well, it's always been the Rivals. It remains the Rivals. What is in dispute is it doesn't seem like anybody can completely agree on who the second team is. And again, if you're Texas, that's kind of what you want. We talked about this last week when he was going from A&M to Oklahoma. What would it mean for each of those 2 schools, knowing that going into the weekend it was probably Texas 1, A&M 2, as Oklahoma does whatever it can to kind of shake things up, who's still number 2? Going into this weekend, the consensus is Texas is the leader. I've talked to Oklahoma sourcing that believes Texas A&M is probably number 2. And yet, I've talked to a source that spoke with Fasusi, or excuse me, I've got it backwards. I spoke to a source that told me that has spoken with Fasusi this week, who said Oklahoma visit didn't move the needle. But I've talked to Texas and Oklahoma people who've said Oklahoma did move the needle. and that Oklahoma's now number 2, and A&M's kind of on the back burner. But I literally spoke with somebody yesterday who has spoken. I have not spoken with young Mr. Fasusi this week. The person I spoke with had, and I believe generally has a pretty good feel on this kid's recruitment. And he said, Oklahoma visit didn't move the needle. Which is strange because there had been a sense for the last few days that Oklahoma did move the needle, that Bedenbaugh, their offensive line coach, the message, Rivals had an interview with Fasusi just yesterday where, I guess it wasn't yesterday, but that's when the article would have come out, where Fasusi says, OU's message to me was that if you come to Oklahoma, it'll be the best decision you'll make in your life. He starts saying things like, I'm looking at Oklahoma because they're academics. And that's when you know a kid's really hearing the message, because nobody's going to Oklahoma for academics. So when you hear a kid say, I could just stay home and go to a community college, but Oklahoma's available. I mean, let's be honest. It's a junk school.
Wow.
When a guy starts saying, I love the junk school because of the academics, it's hard not to go, really? If somebody was like, oh man, Oklahoma State's my number 1 school. Why are you wanting to go to Stillwater? Academics? You just shudder at the thought. So I don't know. I think the goal for Texas this weekend with Fasusi is just do your thing, knock it out of the park. It seems like he's ready to go. People in Oklahoma and College Station believe that Texas is in front. What nobody can completely agree on is who is number 2. And if we were going to interview real quickly a very confident, overconfident Texas fan, they would say something like, that's because there is no number 2. And Texas is miles apart from both of them. And so, we can just take a victory lap this weekend. That's not impossible. It's possible that all week long, as people have tried to decipher who is Texas's main competition, maybe there's not. Maybe that's why there's a disagreement both from OU and National and A&M on exactly what's taking place. It just feels like Texas needs to knock this out of the park, and they're going to be more than okay. And they feel like the school that Michael Fasusi is going to end up at. If that doesn't happen, I'm curious to see what is the reason. Did something happen on this weekend that changed things? He's the only offensive lineman they're bringing in. This is the Fasusi moment from a weekend visitor standpoint that they set up for more a week ago, where it was like, we don't even care. They brought in 3 other receivers last weekend, but none of those dudes were getting the Decorian Moore treatment. Mm-hmm. And I think they've cleared the path out to knock Fasusi's socks off. And as long as they are able to do a smidge of that, make mom happy. There's a sense that maybe OU might have a fan with the mom. So maybe that's why Oklahoma might feel a little bit comfortable, or Oklahoma may feel a little bit comfortable, as maybe they're the team to watch in this battle with Texas, because, I don't think Fasusi's mom's been to Texas yet. So there's a lot that they got to win the mom this weekend and do some things. But OU thinks they may have a little bit of an in with the mom. He's got one of his best friends, Fasusi's best friends, may end up at Oklahoma as well. So it's not like Oklahoma doesn't have some things going in its favor. No, by the way, Bill Bedenbaugh is like a freaking phenomenal offensive line coach. As crappy as their academics are, the offensive line coaching at Oklahoma is elite of the elite of the elite. And that probably matters to an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So, Oklahoma fans, that's me being honest. Be honest. Your academics, nobody ever goes into anybody's office bragging about their paper mill diploma from Oklahoma. But the offensive line coaching in Oklahoma, oh man, scream that from the rafters.
Yeah. You're majoring in bed and ball. That's what you're majoring in.
And so that may be one of their advantages. I thought for most of this week that Oklahoma had bumped A&M until I spoke to somebody yesterday who, like I said, had spoken with Fasusi, and the message was that Fasusi wasn't wowed or moved or let me look into my notes and make sure I got the exact wording here. It didn't seem to move the needle much.
Yeah.
Which completely, before I had this conversation, I was like, okay, here comes Oklahoma. And this is who Texas is. But God, if there's no way this guy tells me that without Fasusi giving him that vibe a little bit, somehow off the record, I don't know. Yeah. But something made this person I spoke with, who's not affiliated with Texas at all, say the visit to Oklahoma didn't move the needle. And it completely threw me for a loop. And if you go look at how I presented it in the war room, it's pretty much a shoulder shrug.
Yeah.
I laid it out. It was like, hey, the vibe seemed to be that it was going to be Oklahoma after the weekend, and they've got some things going in their favor. And then I talked to somebody yesterday that would probably have a pretty good indication about where things stand in that recruitment. And they say that OU didn't move the needle. I don't know. I'll be transparent, though, and tell you that we're just hearing multiple things. But we go back to what we were talking about with the wide receivers. I think we know who the two schools are that would be number two, but that we don't fully know who number two is Advantage Texas.
Some great stuff in the war room. Go check it out at orangebloods.com. We will take a look at the full list of visitors coming up here in just a second. And I'll get Ketch's thoughts on anybody else that might be coming in, coming in for the visit. I also think there's a couple quarterback notes. If you're a Texas fan, you might want to hear and may want to check out. Real quick, let me set you up with AV consultations. You've heard me talk about them. It's real simple. This is the place that can get you the man cave you've always wanted, the big screen you've always wanted, the multiple screen setup you've always wanted. I just recently made sure that my NFL Sunday ticket was taken care of. Well, that's YouTube TV. Have you seen it yet? You can do 4 games at one time. But then how big is your overall screen? You got to think about that. If you've got like a 40-inch screen and you go 4 games at once in a quad box, how big is each screen? You do that math and think, no, my eyes are getting a little crazy as I'm getting older. I need a bigger screen. Yeah, you do. And this is the place that can get it for you. They'll get a better deal on the TV than you can, and they'll get it set up the perfect way. They've been doing it since 1988, and that's your number, 255-8678, 255-8678. AV consultations. You can do avconsultations.com as well. Start taking a look at all those great pictures and get your ideas together with AV consultations. All right, Catch. You want to take a look at this full list of visitors and see if anything pops in your head?
Sure. Put that bad boy up there.
Let's look at it. Shout out to Tyler and Jalen and our graphics crew for putting it together. You'll see a picture of Khalik Lockett as part of it. Your orange names are Texas commits. The names in white are guys that are visiting as well. Catch, what jumps out to you here off this list that maybe we haven't talked about?
Well, we haven't talked about the fact that the two big in-state defensive tackles are coming into town. So Zion Williams and DJ Sanders are players that we've talked about for months. Mm-hmm. I think nobody has a great handle on DJ Sanders, and I think there's an expectation that Texas is the favorite for Zion Williams. Do those two guys compete with each other? Again, Sanders has been so aloof to recruiting. Remember we had Adam Gorney on last week, and it was like, DJ Sanders, who the hell knows? Like the kid just hasn't cared about recruiting at all.
Yeah.
So those two guys, and look, those aren't super blue chips, but sometimes you just got to go out and get the best guys that you can get. The best two in-state guys are DJ Sanders and Zion Williams. So what happens there? You know, if you were able to get both of those guys, whatever the hell Brandon Brown ends up doing, whether it's LSU or Texas, or now he's visiting Oklahoma this weekend, you'd love to get all three. You'd love to just try to get as many good bodies as possible, and then let evolution and math work in your favor as best it can. I think those two guys, after you talk about the 5 stars, the thing that stands out. And then Nick Townsend, the tight end, visits A&M a week ago. I don't talk about a guy that, depending on who you talk to, you hear a little something different every time. Just this week, I've heard Texas is the school to beat. I've heard Oregon is a team to keep an eye on. I mean, it's a little bit of everything with Townsend. So I think you want to basically keep an eye on that recruitment, because I think they lead for Michael Terry as he goes into Oregon this weekend. I don't think A&M moved. Doesn't sound like, speaking of needles being moved, doesn't sound like Michael Terry's needle was moved a lot at A&M based on talking to some San Antonio sources this week, people familiar with that recruitment. But it's not a locked-in, foregone conclusion that Texas is, going to land on. I think Oregon is the team to watch, and he goes there this weekend. So that will be one to watch there. There's some badass tight ends. Keody Armstrong goes to A&M, but you still have Nick Townsend, who technically I have rated essentially the same as Armstrong. They're completely different. But Townsend's a more explosive athlete, even if Armstrong's probably the more NFL body, the more physically imposing, impressive kid. But you got to get, if you're Texas, you can't have a year where – and Lance Jackson is one of the 4 guys that in theory could play tight end. But I think his value is on the defensive side of the ball. So now you're talking about the 3 guys with tight end optionality, versatility are Armstrong, who's gone, Townsend, who's in town this weekend, and then Michael Terry, who Texas has told, we want to play you like Jatavian Sanders was used. So I'll be watching those. And, I think Aiden Anding is a guy to keep an eye on, because Sukumel's convinced that kid's coming to Texas, a corner out of Louisiana. I think you're going to keep Cade Phillips is a guy that last weekend it looked like LSU made a really big impression on him. By the way, Chad, you can bring that down. Do you want me to give you the note, the recruiting note that I think will make you the happiest?
Sure.
So Cade Phillips goes to LSU and he does his photo shoot. And he posted on Instagram. And so it's Cade Phillips posing in all of his LSU gear. Mm-hmm. And Jonah Williams' reaction to the Instagram post was to use like 6 or 7 vomit faces. Where you would think that's good news for A&M, is that there's an expectation that LSU might be A&M's primary competition for the 5-star Jonah Williams. And if that's the case, Jonah Williams vomiting at the sight of another player in their LSU photo shoot. I don't know. Maybe vomiting in teenage years means something different, right? Maybe that means good things in 20. Maybe I'm just that old. It's like, oh, Catch, you don't even know. Vomiting is like badass for the kids these days.
Yeah. One way or the other, there's an interpretation thing. I think it's that you and I, we've arrived at the time, Catch, where we're having a serious recruiting discussion, and vomit emojis are used as evidence. It's just a great time to be alive.
Look, all I'm telling you is if Khalid Lockett takes a Texas photo shoot this weekend and posts it on Instagram, and Decorium Moore follows that up with a bunch of vomits.
Right, exactly. It'll matter. The one thing we're
going to be like, oh my God, what's happened?
Here's the one. Is it true, Catch, that the 2 of us could be old men that don't know what every emoji means? Absolutely. But the kids don't take the emojis lightly. The kids think the emojis are serious, and the kids aren't going to throw out a vomit emoji about their favorite hamburger or their favorite school.
If you think about it, the kids take the emojis more seriously than we do.
Of course.
We think it's nonsense. It's their form of communication. So however much we would make out of Jonah Williams or the hypothetical Decorian Moore 5 vomit reaction to Khalid Lockett in a Texas uniform, 5. However much we make out of it, it would be less than I think the kids would. So I think we're okay.
He gave it the 5 vomit salute. I'm sorry. Go
It's
ahead.
not 5 stars. It's 5 vomits.
The 5 vomits. Oh, my Lord. All right. So we've taken a look at the full list of folks coming in. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat right now, Catch. I don't see any.
Just so you know, I'm trying to find that tweet so that I can confirm just how many vomits were in the post.
You're trying to get a vomit emoji count from Jonah Williams. Okay.
I want to be accurate because once I said it's instead of 5 stars, it's 5 vomits. It'd be funny if it was 5 vomits because of the star rankings.
It would be great.
It's not just a vomit; it's a 5-star vomit.
That's a 5-star vomit. All right, I tell you what, we'll give Specs some love while you look there. Remember to get stocked up at Specs. You're definitely not using that emoji for Specs. Although there's some things at Specs that if you go too far, you know what I'm saying. Here we go.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Remember, kids, be careful. Do it responsibly with all that stuff you get at Specs. Otherwise, the vomit emoji might apply to you. And Mark lets us know, yes, Billy Bob says it was a 10. A 10. Wait a minute. R.I.P. Billy Bob. Is Mark breaking news here? Billy Bob, the actor, died? Is that what he's saying?
Billy Bob's been dead for a hot minute.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. All right, Mark. Sorry. I thought you were like breaking news on the show or something.
No, Billy Bob's rest in peace. I think he was just saying rest in peace because he's recognizing Billy Bob.
Recognizing that he's gone. Okay.
He's gone, yeah.
Did not know that. Yes. Okay. He says, yes, died many years ago. All right.
By the way, I have confirmation of how many vomit emojis it was.
All right, what do you got?
I don't want to tell you.
Okay.
I'm efforting getting this into the system. I want to upload it and show it to you.
Oh, you're going to show me
I want to show everybody. I don't want to just because it stood out to me, Chad.
It
and
sounds
when I show it to you, you're going to go, oh, it makes sense why Ketch remembered that Jonah Williams had this reaction to Cade Phillips. Okay.
And you're pulling this up yourself, or are you sending it to me and I have to pull it?
I'm working on it. I want to surprise you. I'm working on it myself.
I'm
excited.
We're
going to see whether or not I am capable.
I know
of doing this because I just make you do it.
This is I know it's a whole nother level. I'm gonna be excited if you pull this off.
So why don't you say something?
I believe in you,
for like 2 seconds.
Okay, I will do that. I'll bring this chat up from earlier in the show. Someone saw Ketch's a little bit of scruff on the face and said, Ketch, are you working on growing out that Billy Lucci beard? Pablo, interesting question. A lot of people don't know this. When Ketch thinks about growing facial hair, he does refer to it as the Billy Lucci beard. When Lucci thinks about shaving his head, he calls it the Ketchum swag. A lot of people don't know that. I know that. I know both of them.
Can I, again, we're going to a place of honesty here.
Yes.
Do you want me to tell you the truth? Or do you want me to tell you that there was some swag involved or something like that? Like ultimately, because here's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I showered today.
Okay.
But I looked in the mirror, looked at my razor. I couldn't get the hot water in the sink going at the speed that I wanted it to.
Okay.
So I just decided
you bailed
that I would not shave today.
Fair enough.
But really, I mean, it's not just laziness. I literally didn't shave today because the hot water in the sink wasn't heating up fast enough.
Gotcha.
So,
see, and I was on the other side. I had the hot water I was looking for. I had the time. I did shave before the show. So you got an unshaved, you got shaved, you got whatever, we're keeping the house divided, just different.
All right, Chad, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
See if I pulled this off.
Hit me with a multi-vomit emoji tweet. See if you can do it. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Okay, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 7 vomit emoji.
7 vomit emoji.
The 7 vomit emoji salute. By the way, I do love a good clean uni. I'm not a huge fan of the LSU white, but that's a badass picture. Well done from LSU there. I like that. The 7 vomit emoji salute.
Look, Caleb Chester's right above that. He is committed to Texas. He gave him a thumbs up.
Yeah, he gave him is that a thumbs up or is that a crossed finger? Isn't that like a crossed fingers, like a, wishing? Is that what that is?
I don't know. It looks like a thumbs up to me.
Okay. Could be a thumbs up or a hand
Jonah
up.
Williams was at LSU last weekend.
Man, okay.
There's no other way to interpret that, right?
That is wild. Yeah. Jonah's that's weird. Unless Jonah's just being like me and he's being like a uniform snob and he's saying he doesn't like the white helmet. That's about all I can come up with.
I think those uniforms are clean. I like them.
Man, oh man.
Anyway, so when I don't want you guys to think that I was sleuthing the kid or that like it just jumped out at me, Chad. I saw Cade Phillips post this on Instagram and they put Jonah's reactions at the very top. It's like outside of Caleb Chester, it's the first thing you see. It's like, oh, okay, I guess Jonah had a real opinion about that.
Yeah, he really did. Kyle's got a great idea. It says we need to just do Olds decipher emojis on House Divided now. We'll just throw random emojis up and you and I have to figure out
record traffic.
The hell are the kids talking about? My God. All right, Catch, do you about ready for a little buy or sells or anything we need to hit? What?
Let's just move on. Whatever what is in my brain isn't what I need to say.
Okay,
let's just say I'll just say it because I always do, right?
Well, you do, yeah.
For some reason, the deciphering emojis made me think of a tongue emoji and like a donkey's backside.
Oh, good God. I don't know why that would be the case.
I don't either, but it's what popped into my head.
Yeah, I'm not a therapist, so we can't go into that. Let's get a little buy or sell. I got a surprise for you before we're done, and looks like we need to have an interesting rest in peace before we're done that I didn't know, that I wasn't expecting. All right, you want to go first or second today?
I'll go first.
All right, hit it.
Buy or sell number one, the only sporting event this weekend that matters at all is A&M and Tennessee in the College World Series.
Oh, no doubt. That's a buy. I'm not sure where they're golfing this weekend. I don't know where the WNBA is. I can't tell you if Angel Reese is going to be clotheslining Caitlin Clark, but the Aggies are fighting for the Natty on Saturday evening, Sunday afternoon, and maybe
Monday vomit evening. Emoji.
That is all. Yeah, I was gonna say cue all of y'all's vomit emojis, but that's all I'm focused on. Yes, absolutely. Bye.
Buy or sell number two. No way we get through this weekend without somebody clotheslining Caitlin Clark.
Boy, I haven't looked at the schedule
to see for a few days
to see if it's Angel on the schedule. It feels like it's only the Chicago team that really goes after her. Like it feels like that's the crew that really wants to put Caitlin on the wood. So I'll be optimistic and I'll say sell that no one actually clotheslines Caitlin Clark over the weekend.
Buy or sell number three, Brent Venables 6-year extension. What could go wrong?
Oh, buy. Absolutely. He topped off a 6-7 with a 10-3. This is obviously your guy. Shows up at press conferences, makes weird references about fire hoses. Sure. What? Buy. Why wasn't it 10?
Let me tell you who OU is. And look, Texas has done this a few times, so let's not pretend like they haven't. Mm-hmm. But they're the guy playing $1, $2 blinds of poker, and there's $10 in the pot, and they announce, I'm all in $347.
Yeah, right.
Fold? It's just,
yeah.
What are you doing? That's who they are. Again, no reason to do that other than you wanted to. Okay. Buy or sell number four, the Copa America is taking place right now. The USA, Brazil, Argentina, Messi played last night, all in the tournament together. Buy or sell before the Copa America ends. You'll watch a little bit of it.
Sell. I had no idea it was on. No.
What's wrong with you?
I'm sorry.
You don't even like international soccer?
I mean, I'll get into a little bit of international soccer. Now that you've told me, if I happen to see it pop on the TV, I might record and watch later. Yeah, I might.
I know because I have YouTube TV. That if you just watch 5 minutes of a match, it will show up for you like every time you turn YouTube TV on.
Okay.
It'll make sure that it lets you know, hey, you can just click on that soccer match right now.
Yeah.
By the way, I do love YouTube TV.
That's good. I like it too.
I don't know that I would want to change. Like I think I may have settled into I like their everything that they're about. You said that 4 screen during the football season, and I felt like Tim Allen. It was like,
It's great. And if you have YouTube TV, it'll pop up for college football as well. It's not just NFL Sunday Ticket. That option pops up for other sports. It's pretty cool.
Buy or sell number 5, Donald Sutherland passed away at the age of 88 yesterday. Rest in peace to Donald Sutherland. He may or may not be featured in this weekend's 10 Thoughts from the Weekend Top 10.
Oh.
Buy or sell, you prefer Kiefer Sutherland as an actor more than his dad, Donald Sutherland?
I'll buy that. It's a generational thing. I dig them both, but being the age I watched Kiefer grow up, and I'm just going to be honest, I've seen more that contains Kiefer than I have probably that contains Donald if I counted everything up. So I'll lean with the son, but Donald's a badass. Rest in peace. And 88, right? Was it 88 years old?
Yes.
Long life and long career.
You've seen Animal House, though, right?
I have seen Animal House.
So you've seen Donald Sutherland's ass, and I don't know that you can say that about Kiefer Sutherland.
That is true. Good point. That's a good point.
I'm just saying that you may not have seen as much of Donald Sutherland.
Better caboose.
In another way, you've seen more of Donald Sutherland.
Better caboose than Kiefer. I'll just say that. That is absolutely true. All right, Catch, here we go. Let's start in Norman. Buy or sell. Brent Venables gets that 6-year extension way too soon.
Buy. He had a good year. That's literally what you hired him to do. This is exactly what Texas did with Shaka Smart and Tom Herman. It's like you gave him the job, you gave him a big contract, and the very first time he shows any inclination of doing the thing that you hired him to do, you give him more money. It just, when has that ever gone wrong?
Yeah. What was it about those 3 losses that made you do that? That makes no sense.
They came out of that bowl game going, we better lock him up.
Yeah, lock that dude up, or the fire hose will really fire up. All right, buy or sell number 2, Catch. We all need to drop some of our expectations for Jonte Cook.
Probably a buy. There's something that Jonte Cook's not quite doing that I can't quite put my finger on. Nobody has verbalized it to me, but there's a next level that he needs to go to. Because he's not locked in. You know, I think we wondered when Silas Bolden showed up, where would he play? If he were to take reps, who would he take them from? I think in February, our answer would have been, well, I don't know, but it won't be Jonte Cook. In June, it appears to be probably Jonte Cook. So, yeah, it's obvious to say that Jonte Cook needs to be better than Silas Bolden if he expects to play more than Silas Bolden. But this goes back to the spring, pre-Silas Bolden's arrival. Jonte just wasn't tearing it up every day. He wasn't great every day. There is a consistency thing. They're still waiting with Jonte. Now, look, you and I are charter members of the Jonte Cook fan club. So I want Jonte to start this season. I want him to score 10 touchdowns. I want him to blow up and be a monster player because I've been on the record about how high my expectations are for him. So this isn't like, oh, Catch, here goes Orange Blood hating on Jonte Cook. No, it's an acknowledgement that he's not great yet. And Silas Bolden may take some of his reps. And that's just not – look, when Silas Bolden signed, nobody thought to themselves, well, there goes Jonte Cook's replacement. No, that's not what we thought. We thought maybe he moves to the slot and plays somewhere that he's never played before because the idea of having him play ahead of Jonte Cook didn't make any sense at all. Today, I think it's something that people are at least whispering about. And it says something about how good Silas Bolden has looked since he's come in at the beginning of this month. And I think it speaks to there's still a level they're waiting for Jonte to consistently hit.
Buy or sell number 3, Catch. By next Wednesday, Texas will have named a new baseball coach.
That's a good question.
So Wednesday, we'll give you Wednesday at midnight, all the way
I'm
through
going to
that.
sell Mac Brown, and I think both Mac and Augie were hired on Thursdays.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with history and say that whoever the next guy is, Thursday's a big announcement date in Texas lore.
Nice. All right, Catch. Let's go with some talented ladies with birthdays today. Buy or sell number 4. Tomorrow, Cyndi Lauper turns 71. You'd rather see Cindy in concert this year than Pat Benatar.
I think that's a buy.
Okay.
I think, the question I think here is, what's the high? What's of the two concerts, what's the one thing that you feel like you have to hear more than anything else?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be Cindy singing Time After Time.
It's got to be a big one.
So I think I would like to hear her sing that and be able to have witnessed that more so than anything. And I like Pat on the lake and the boat. Like if you're just jamming to some 80s tunes, like throw Pat in there. But I don't know that I would do that in a concert setting.
Yeah, I have not scratched Pat Benatar off the list, but I will scratch Cindy off the list by the end of the year. Interested in that one. Happy birthday to Cindy tomorrow. Also, this one, Catch, you'll be disappointed. Get ready. Buy or sell number 5. Meryl Streep hits 75 tomorrow.
Oh, my God. Sorry.
I have only seen 3 Meryl Streep movies, and you can name 2 of them.
I mean, Meryl's done so much.
Mm-hmm.
So you're asking me.
I've seen 3 of everything she's done.
I have to believe you've seen, because you have a teenage daughter.
I do.
So and you were married to Wendy. I think there's a good chance that you've seen The Devil Wears Prada.
That is correct. You're halfway home. I have seen The Devil Wears Prada.
It's. I don't think you've ever seen Deer Hunter. She was in that. It's one of those movies I think I've scolded you on. Like, how have you not seen Deer Hunter? And it's, how have you not seen so many things that you've not seen?
Correct.
God.
Yes. And you are correct. I have not seen Deer Hunter.
I, for some reason, want to just believe that all of the Meryl Streep movies that you've seen are related to things that the women in your life have forced you to watch.
Okay.
So number 2 on my guesses.
Yes.
Mamma Mia.
Ooh, that is a solid guess. My girls are into those movies. I have not seen either one, though. Good try. It's a good try, though. The other 2 that I have seen, Catch, you almost were there, because it is my daughter that got me to watch this movie. Meryl Streep is in Little Women. The one
my God, I forgot she was in that.
I did too, but she's in with Timothy Chalamet and that crew.
That's a really good movie.
It really was. My daughter had me watch that one, and it was great. And then the other one we've actually discussed before, because it's one of the only Clint Eastwood movies I've seen, The Bridges of Madison County. That's one of the other movies. Sadly, I've only seen like just a few Clints and just a few Meryls, but that's one that I've actually seen that gets both. So sad.
I don't know. Someone may have just like scanned a QR code to get some vodka because you went to Meryl Streep. Sorry about that, guys.
I'm so sorry.
Wow.
So sorry. Yeah. So
Meryl is 75.
75.
Boy, if Donald Sutherland doesn't die, I'm doing the Meryl Streep top 10. And what a doozy that's got to be.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got 2 super chats that have come in. I'm going to mark them here. We'll get there. Before we get to the super chats, Catch, just real quick.
What's your favorite Meryl Streep movie?
Of the ones I've seen, I'd have to go with Prada. I guess it's Devil Wears Prada, because her character is so badass and evil in that one. All right, Catch, real quick. I want to show you this. You know how seriously I take the background, and then when I came here and you called it the, Indiana Jones background, I want you to look what Doc Hastings did for you. He got bored last night, and he put together a model ship for you. You see that?
Yes.
Just for you. Threw together a model ship. We threw it in the background for you. It's been there all day. Look at that bad boy. USS Constitution.
Good job, Doc.
How about that? The old Ironside's been sitting behind me the whole show. How about that? All right.
Is that Texas flag over the doorway new?
It is. No, that's been there all week. That is a Texas flag made out of tin.
I know it's been there all week, but is it relatively new?
Oh, I don't know. I think was relative. Yeah, I'm getting an relatively new. Yes. Yeah, relatively new. They're constantly trying to give you new things in the background. They don't want you to get bored.
Well, I love that.
Let me get let's hit these super chats. Of course, Jay sends us one. Thank you, Jay, for $5. When will the UT football facilities be done? Soon? And are they part of the recruiting pitch now, or is that still a few years away? I would think that's always a part of the pitch, right?
Yeah, end of the decade, probably.
Yeah,
it's a process. It's 2024. They're not breaking ground on that imminently. So I think, they're probably telling kids, yeah, the plan is to have new facilities. But I don't know that they're saying a lot more in terms of, and they'll be here in your 6th year. Like, I don't know. There's not a definitive, these will be ready on this date.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jay. Also, this one coming in from Hooked on the Horns, another $5. I'll be blasting Rocky Top every time Tennessee gets a base hit against A&M this weekend. All right, Hook, there you go. He'll be checking it out. And I would assume most Longhorn fans will be rooting for that other UT is probably what they will be doing this weekend. Also, Catch, before we get out of here, and I just realized, let's make sure we get that up before we get out of here. But before we go, somebody sent us a chat. I am Mark. Thank you for this update. I didn't realize it. Catch, if you ask me who I think the greatest running back in the history of A&M football is, this is my easy answer. And apparently he's left us today. Rest in peace to the great Darren Lewis, 55 years old. He died of cancer. I did not realize Darren Lewis was fighting cancer. But rest in peace to Darren. He was just an absolute badass. I think he's still the rushing leader in A&M history. I'd have to go look at that list. But, Catch, you remember Darren Lewis and Robert Wilson, the bull in the tank in that backfield together. They were tough to deal with. No,
and, when you think about the A&M glory years, I think Darren Lewis is one of the first names that pops up. Yeah, I mean, by the way, don't be surprised if the mailman is walking up to my doorway right now.
Dog's about to go.
Maybe.
Yeah, it is. Well, you predicted it perfectly. That was good. Within 2 seconds of the first bark.
It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. The mailman was subtle.
That was good.
But what if he'd rung the doorbell and?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Yeah, rest in peace to the tank, man. That is a sad story to hear. Darren Lewis, dead at the age of 55.
Who are your top 5 Aggies from the late 80s, early 90s? All right, so let me see if I can guess them.
Okay.
Darren Lewis.
Darren's got to be in there.
Kevin Murray.
Yeah.
And Bucky.
Yeah.
And then it's got to be Coriat.
Yep.
So the 4th guy, it's not a quarterback.
Those are 4 great ones. I don't know that there's an obvious one here, Catch. If you're making me go 5, I could throw a lot of guys in as that 5th.
You think the 4 guys, they're the Mount Rushmore?
Probably. Yeah, that'd be my Mount Rushmore of that era. Because you get Quentin, the 2 quarterbacks, and then Darren was such a badass. Right now, the way because I'm thinking about both of them, and it's a guy I got to meet back in the day, I'd go with Robert Wilson just because I'm a running game. I know he's a fullback, but I love the bull to death. So I'd go Robert Wilson if I'm thinking right now. But a lot of defensive guys would step out too.
I would have guessed Sam Adams, Buckley. I guess if you go back, Marcus Buckley.
Kevin Smith. Yeah, Pup, right. Yeah, good. Yeah, there's a lot of guys back. Aaron Glenn. I mean, there's a lot of guys.
Aaron Glenn regarded higher on the hierarchy than Kevin Smith? Like how do A&M fans rank those 2 guys?
I'm assuming it'd be Pup first and then Aaron Glenn.
Okay.
I'm assuming, yeah. That's how I think of
That's
it.
how I rank them.
Yeah, right. That's how I'm assuming. Both really good, but I think I would go Pup first. All right. Anything else? Let me see.
The only other thing I would say is stay tuned to Orange. Get notifications. Stay tuned to Orange Bloods Live all weekend. I'm ready to go. If something goes down, if there's a Coyote Armstrong situation, but it's in Texas's favor this weekend, we'll go live. We'll break everything down. Stay tuned. It should be a fun weekend.
There you go. And there's your QR code. We'll throw that up as we get out of here for orangebloods.com. War Room last night. There'll be threads and columns and all kinds of stuff reacting to the visitors coming in. So definitely check it out. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. We're damn near at 700 folks as we finish up. Also, I looked at the number today. We're almost to 19,300 subscribers. So if you could help us get there over the weekend, that would be a cool way for us to start on Monday. It's the little things sometimes in life that do it. Thank you for all your support. Thanks to all of our great partners. We will talk to you on Monday at noon. Until then, we are House Divided.